Captain Jake Morrison stared at the blinking red light on his console. The emergency signal had been going for 3 hours now, and it was starting to get on his nerves. The New Horizon was humanity's first deep space exploration ship, built to map star systems beyond the Orion Arm. They were not supposed to find anything exciting out here. "Amy, can you clean up that signal?" Jake asked his communications officer. Amy Scott was young but good at her job. She had been working on the strange transmission since they first picked it up. "I'm trying, Captain," Amy said, her fingers dancing over her keyboard. "It's not in any language our computers know, but there's definitely intelligence behind it. The patterns are too complex to be natural." Chief Engineer Lisa Parker looked up from her station. "Could be a distress call. The signal strength suggests it's coming from about 2 light years away." Jake rubbed his chin. 2 years ago, humans had finally cracked faster than light travel. Now they were out here, farther from Earth than any human had ever been. The mission was simple: explore, map, and report back. Nobody had expected to find signs of alien life so soon. "Danny, what's our weapons status?" Jake asked. Weapons Specialist Danny Rodriguez laughed. "Captain, we've got 2 plasma cannons and some mining charges. We're explorers, not soldiers." "I know what we are," Jake said, "but something tells me we might need those weapons." Amy suddenly straightened up. "Got it, the signal is clearing up. And Captain, you're going to want to hear this." The bridge, filled with a voice speaking heavily accented English. The alien speaker sounded tired and desperate. "This is Commander Zalthara of the Zephyrian Resistance. If anyone can hear this message, please respond. Our people are dying. The Vorthak Empire has conquered nearly every world in this sector. We are the last free military unit and we cannot hold out much longer." The crew exchanged glances. Jake felt his heart racing. First contact with aliens and they were calling for help. "The Vorthak have been destroying civilizations for 3,000 years. The voice continued. "They are crystal beings with technology, far beyond most species. They show no mercy. They take prisoners only for slave labor. Right now they are preparing their final attack on Kepler 442b. That planet holds the last refugees from 20 different species, men, women, and children who have nowhere else to run." Amy looked at Jake. "Captain, should I respond?" Jake held up his hand. The message was still playing. "We know this message will probably reach no one. Space is vast, and we are alone. But if there is anyone out there, anyone with ships and weapons, please help us. The Vorthak believe they have won. They think the galaxy belongs to them. But maybe, just maybe, there is still hope." The message ended. The bridge was quiet except for the hum of the ship's engines. Lisa broke the silence. "Captain, we have to help them." "Help them?" Danny said. "Lisa, we're one ship. One ship with mining equipment and a crew of 30 people. What can we do against an empire that's been conquering the galaxy for 3,000 years?" "We can try," Amy said quietly. Jake looked at his crew. These people had volunteered for a simple exploration mission. Now they were talking about jumping into an interstellar war. But something about that alien's voice had touched him. The desperation, the hope that someone might be listening. "Amy, send a response. Tell them we received their message and we're coming to help." "Captain," Danny said, "we don't even know where we're going or what we're getting into." "Then we'll figure it out when we get there," Jake said. "Set course for Kepler 442b. Maximum speed." The journey took 6 days. During that time, they picked up more transmissions. Most were in alien languages, but Amy managed to translate some of them. What they learned made Jake's blood run cold. The Vorthak Empire was not just another conquering species. They were systematic destroyers of civilizations. They had wiped out hundreds of intelligent species over the millennia. Any world that resisted was burned to ash. Any species that fought back was hunted to extinction. The few survivors spoke of Vorthak crystal ships that could destroy entire fleets. They had energy weapons that could crack planets. Their armies moved like machines, efficient and unstoppable. "Why hasn't anyone beaten them?" Lisa asked during one of their planning sessions. "Because everyone tries to fight them the same way," Jake realized. The transmissions all talk about honor in battle, formal military tactics, fighting by rules. But the Vorthak don't follow anyone's rules but their own. So what do we do differently? Danny asked. Jake smiled for the first time in days. We fight like humans. On the 6th day, they reached the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw there made them all go quiet. The Vorthak fleet was massive. Hundreds of crystal ships hung in space like deadly jewelry. Each ship was twice the size of the New Horizon. Their formation was perfect, disciplined, and terrifying. But it was what happened next that changed everything. A small transport ship, clearly carrying refugees, limped into the system. It was damaged and slow, probably filled with families trying to escape the war. The transport sent out a surrender signal. It had no weapons, posed no threat. The Vorthak response was swift and merciless. Energy beams lanced out from their fleet, turning the transport into expanding gas and debris in seconds. Hundreds, maybe thousands of innocent beings died in that moment. Jake watched it happen and felt something cold settle in his chest. These weren't soldiers fighting for territory or resources. These were murderers who killed because they could. Danny, Jake said quietly, warm up our weapons. Captain, we can't fight that fleet. We're not going to fight the fleet, Jake said. We're going to make them notice us. Amy, start recording everything. We need to send detailed reports back to Earth. Lisa, I want you to scan their ships. Learn everything you can about their technology. What's the plan, Captain? Amy asked. Jake looked at the Vorthak fleet, then at his small crew. Humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They had learned to win against bigger, stronger enemies through cunning, surprise, and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. We're going to show the galaxy something it's never seen before, Jake said. We're going to show them how humans fight. The New Horizon began moving toward the Vorthak fleet. It was one small human ship against an empire that had conquered the galaxy. But sometimes, Jake thought, one small ship was all it took to start a storm. Behind them, hidden in the asteroid belt, Commander Zalthera's resistance fighters watched in amazement as the unknown vessel approached certain death. They had no idea that they were about to witness the moment when humanity announced itself to the galaxy in the only way it knew how, by refusing to back down from a fight, no matter how impossible the odds. The New Horizon stayed at the edge of the Kepler 442 system for 3 days, watching and learning. Jake had his crew study every movement of the Vorthak fleet. They recorded weapon patterns, ship formations, and communication frequencies. What they discovered surprised them. They're predictable, Lisa said during their morning briefing. Every patrol follows the exact same route. Every formation change happens at the same time intervals. It's like watching a machine. That's because they think like machines, Jake replied. Amy, any luck breaking their communication codes? Amy nodded excitedly. They don't even encrypt most of their messages. They're so confident that no one can challenge them. They don't bother hiding their plans. Captain, they're planning to attack the refugee planet in 2 weeks. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Millions of innocent beings were counting on help that wasn't coming. The resistance fighters were brave but outnumbered 1,000 to 1. We need more ships, Danny said. One human vessel isn't going to change anything. Then we get more ships, Jake said. Amy, can you send a quantum message back to Earth? It'll take everything we have, Amy warned. Our power cells will be drained for days. Do it. 2 days later, the message reached Earth Defense Command. Admiral Kate Sullivan read the report 3 times before she believed it. Alien civilizations. Galactic War. Genocide on a scale that made human history look small. She called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. The debate was fierce. Some wanted to stay hidden, to keep Earth safe from this galactic war. Others argued that humanity had a duty to help. We're talking about committing our entire fleet, General Bob Harris said. We have 12 warships and maybe 30 converted civilian vessels. That's not enough to fight an empire. Admiral Sullivan looked at the star charts. Earth was far from the conflict zone, safely hidden in an arm of the galaxy that the Vorthak had not yet explored. They could stay safe and let the aliens fight their own war. But she thought about Captain Morrison and his crew, alone in enemy space. She thought about the refugee planet full of children who had done nothing wrong except be born into a galaxy ruled by monsters. "We're going," she announced. "Prepare the fleet. We leave in 1 week." "Admiral," General Harris protested, "this is suicide." "Maybe," Kate said, "but it's the right kind of suicide." While Earth prepared for war, Jake and his crew made contact with the Resistance. Commander Zalthera was a tall, blue-skinned being, with golden eyes that held too much sadness. His people, the Zephyrians, had once controlled energy like humans controlled fire. Now they hid in caves and fought with stolen weapons. "Your ship is small," Zalthera said when they met in person. "But you attacked a Vorthak patrol vessel yesterday. How did you survive?" Jake smiled. "We didn't fight them. We annoyed them." The previous day, the New Horizon had used hit-and-run tactics against a Vorthak patrol. They would appear, fire a few shots, then disappear into an asteroid field before the enemy could respond. It was like a mosquito stinging a giant. "The Vorthak don't understand small unit tactics," Jake explained. "They're used to big fleet battles where everyone lines up and shoots at each other. They don't know how to deal with enemies who won't stand still and fight fair." Zalthara's golden eyes widened. "Fight fair? But there are rules of warfare. Honor codes, traditional formations." "Forget all that," Jake said. "The Vorthak sure have. Commander, I want to teach your fighters how humans fight." Over the next week, Jake's crew worked with the Resistance fighters. Marine Sergeant Rick Johnson, who had joined the mission as ship security, taught alien soldiers how to set ambushes and fight dirty. The aliens were shocked by human tactics. "You want us to lie to the enemy?" asked a young Kalani named Veltar. His people were known throughout the galaxy for their honesty and diplomatic skills. "It's not lying," Rick explained. "It's misdirection. You make them think you're doing one thing while you do something else." Lieutenant Commander Helen Davis worked with the Kalani diplomats to coordinate resistance cells across different worlds. Helen had been a military attaché before joining the exploration mission. She understood how to organize scattered forces into a unified command. "Your people think too much like individuals," Helen told a group of resistance leaders. "You need to think like a pack, wolves hunting together." The aliens struggled with human concepts. Deception, sacrifice, and asymmetric warfare were foreign to most galactic civilizations. They had fought wars, but they fought them with rules and honor codes that the Vorthak ignored. Meanwhile, Amy worked on something Jake called the voice of hope. She had been broadcasting messages to hidden resistance groups across the galaxy. The messages were simple. Help is coming. The humans are here. Most aliens had never heard of humans, but word began to spread through secret channels. A new species had appeared, one that fought the Vorthak and lived to tell about it. Dr. Carl Thompson led a team of engineers on Earth who worked day and night to prepare humanity's small fleet for interstellar war. They stripped armor from tank factories and welded it onto cargo ships. They took mining lasers and turned them into weapons. Every human vessel that could fly was being converted for battle. Dr. Maria Santos studied the Vorthak technology that Jake's crew had transmitted back to Earth. The crystal aliens used energy weapons and force fields that were far beyond human science. But Maria found weaknesses. "Their technology is too perfect," she explained to Admiral Sullivan. "Everything operates on precise frequencies. If we can disrupt those frequencies, their weapons become useless." "Can we build something like that?" Kate asked. "Give me 2 weeks and all the quantum processors on Earth," Maria said. Admiral Sullivan's fleet began its journey to the Outer Rim. 42 ships in total, carrying every human military unit that could be spared. The flagship Defiance led the way with Admiral Sullivan commanding humanity's first interstellar war fleet, but they were still weeks away from the battle zone. Jake and his crew were alone with the resistance fighters, watching the Vorthak fleet grow stronger every day. On the 10th day, everything changed. Jake was meeting with Commander Zalthera when Amy's voice crackled over the communicator. "Captain, you need to see this. The Vorthak are moving." They rushed to the command center that the Resistance had built inside a hollowed-out asteroid. The screen showed the massive Vorthak fleet breaking into smaller groups. Some headed toward the refugee planet. Others moved to cut off escape routes. "They're starting the final attack early," Zalthara said, his voice hollow. "We're not ready." Jake looked at the tactical display. The refugee planet was defended by a few resistance ships and some old orbital cannons. Against hundreds of Vorthak vessels, it would last maybe an hour. "How many people are on that planet?" Jake asked. 12 million, Zalthara whispered. "Families from 20 different worlds, children who have never known peace." Jake made his decision. "Signal all resistance units, tell them the storm is coming early." He turned to Amy. "Send a message to Admiral Sullivan. Tell her to hurry." "Captain," Danny said quietly, "our fleet is still 2 weeks away." "Then we hold for 2 weeks," Jake said. "However we can." Commander Zalthara looked at the human captain with something like wonder. "You would fight an entire empire with one ship and a handful of resistance fighters?" Jake smiled grimly. "Commander, you're about to learn something about humans. We're really good at holding the line when everyone else has given up." The Vorthak fleet moved toward the refugee planet like a crystal avalanche. But between them and 12 million innocent lives stood one human ship and a crew that refused to accept defeat. The real war was about to begin. The first battle began at dawn on Kepler 442b. Jake watched from the bridge of the New Horizon as 20 Vorthak crystal ships moved toward the refugee planet. Their formation was perfect, like a spear aimed at the heart of hope itself. "Resistance. Fleet, this is Captain Morrison." Jake spoke into his communicator. "Remember what we practiced. Hit them fast, hit them hard, then run like hell." Commander Zalthara's voice crackled back. "We are ready, human friend. Today we show these crystal monsters that the galaxy still has teeth." The battle started exactly as Jake expected. The Vorthak ships formed their traditional attack line and began firing energy beams at the planet's orbital defenses. Their weapons were powerful enough to crack moons, but they moved slowly and predictably. Jake had spent 2 weeks teaching the resistance fighters something the galaxy had forgotten. Chaos could be a weapon. "Now," Jake shouted. 15 small resistance ships appeared from behind the planet's 3 moons. They didn't form neat lines or follow traditional battle formations. Instead, they scattered like a flock of birds, each ship moving in a different direction at maximum speed. The Vorthak fleet tried to track them but couldn't target so many small, fast-moving ships at once. Their weapons, designed for large fleet battles, kept missing the darting resistance vessels. "Danny, target their lead ship," Jake ordered. "Amy, send the signal to all units." The New Horizon dove toward the center of the Vorthak formation. Every instinct told the aliens that the human ship was making a suicide run. They focused their fire on Jake's vessel, trying to destroy the foolish captain who dared challenge them directly. But Jake wasn't trying to ram their ships. At the last second, the New Horizon rolled underneath the Vorthak formation and released every mining charge they had. The explosions weren't strong enough to destroy the crystal ships, but they didn't need to be. The blast disrupted the Vorthak formation just long enough for the resistance fighters to strike. Zalthara's ship fired directly into the exposed rear section of a Vorthak cruiser. The crystal vessel cracked like glass and went dead in space. It was the first Vorthak ship destroyed in over 100 years. "Impossible," came a cold voice over the alien communication channels. "You primitive creatures cannot defeat the might of the Vorthak Empire," Jake smiled. "Watch us." The battle raged for 6 hours. The humans and their alien allies used every dirty trick Jake could think of. They hid behind debris and struck from ambush. They used the planet's gravity to slingshot around and attack from unexpected angles. When their weapons overheated, they rammed damaged Vorthak ships with empty cargo containers. By the end of the day, 3 more Vorthak ships were destroyed, and 2 others were too damaged to fight. The aliens had never seen anything like it. But Jake knew they had only won the first round. The main Vorthak fleet was still coming, and it would be 100 times larger than this advance force. 3 days later, Admiral Kate Sullivan's human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Arcturus system. 35 human ships faced 60 Vorthak vessels in what would become known as the Battle of Arcturus. All ships, this is Admiral Sullivan. Kate spoke calmly into her communicator. Remember, we're not here to match their firepower. We're here to outthink them. Execute Plan Thunderstorm. Captain Tony Martinez commanded a squadron of converted cargo ships. His vessels looked weak and helpless compared to the sleek Vorthak warships. That was exactly what Kate wanted the enemy to think. Tony, take your freighters on a direct course toward their center, Kate ordered. Make it look desperate. Tony's ships charged toward the Vorthak fleet like knights on a suicide mission. The crystal aliens focused all their weapons on what appeared to be humanity's main attack. Energy beams lanced through space, destroying 2 of Tony's ships immediately. But while the Vorthak concentrated on the obvious threat, they missed the real danger. Commander Beth Johnson led 12 small human corvettes that had been fitted with experimental stealth technology. Dr. Maria Santos's frequency disruptors made the human ships nearly invisible to Vorthak sensors. While the enemy destroyed Tony's decoy force, Beth's ships moved into position behind the Vorthak fleet. All stealth units, this is Admiral Sullivan, light them up. 12 human ships appeared behind the Vorthak formation and opened fire at point-blank range. The crystal aliens had never been attacked from behind. Their ships were designed to fight enemies that followed the traditional rules of space warfare. The rear sections of 6 Vorthak vessels exploded in clouds of crystal fragments and escaping atmosphere. The surviving ships tried to turn around, but space battles weren't fought like ground wars. In the vacuum, changing direction took them. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Wright had volunteered for the most dangerous job of all. While the space battle raged around them, his team of 20 human Marines flew small shuttles directly toward damaged Vorthak ships. Remember, Sam told his troops, these crystal beings are tough, but they've never fought hand-to-hand combat. Their ships are designed for long-range warfare. Get inside, cause chaos, then get out. Sam's Marines breached the hull of a damaged Vorthak cruiser and found themselves in a world of crystal corridors and energy conduits. The Vorthak crew had never imagined that enemies would actually board their ships. They had no training for close-quarters combat. Human soldiers with plasma rifles and explosive charges moved through the alien vessel like wolves in a sheep pen. The crystal beings tried to use their energy weapons in the narrow corridors, but the humans stayed close and used the ship's own structure for cover. In 15 minutes, Sam's team had taken control of the Vorthak vessel's engine room. In 30 minutes, they had downloaded the ship's computer files and planted charges in the main reactor. In 45 minutes, they were back on their shuttles, leaving behind a crystal ship that would explode in 10 minutes. The Battle of Arcturus lasted 8 hours. When it was over, the Vorthak had lost 23 ships. The humans had lost 11 vessels, but they had proven something that would change the course of the war. The Vorthak Empire could be beaten. News of the human victory spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 enslaved worlds, resistance fighters who had given up hope began to plan new attacks. In hidden refugee camps, aliens who had never heard of humans began to whisper about the strange new species that fought like demons and refused to surrender. Supreme Overlord Keth Varex received the battle reports in his crystal palace on the Vorthak homeworld. For 3,000 years, his empire had conquered every species it encountered. The idea that primitive mammals could challenge Vorthak supremacy was impossible to accept. Send the 3rd battle fleet, he ordered his generals. These humans are lucky insects. Crush them before they inspire more rebellion. But something had changed in the galaxy. On the planet Kepler 442b, 12 million refugees watched human ships patrolling their skies and felt hope for the first time in years. Commander Zalthara trained new resistance fighters using human tactics, teaching them that wars were won not by the strongest weapons, but by the smartest fighters. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and looked at the tactical displays showing human and alien ships working together. A week ago, humanity had been alone in the galaxy. Now they were leading the largest rebellion in galactic history. Captain, Amy said, we're receiving messages from resistance groups all over the galaxy. They want to know how they can join the fight. Jake smiled. The storm had begun, but it was just getting started. Across the galaxy, The Vorthak Empire was about to learn that some species refused to be conquered, no matter how impossible the odds seemed. The crystal overlords had ruled through fear for 3 millennia, but fear was about to meet its match. Human stubbornness backed by alien courage. The real war was just beginning. 6 months after the Battle of Arcturus, the war had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every day brought news of new victories and new allies joining the fight against the Vorthak Empire. But Supreme Overlord Keth Varax was done playing games with these upstart humans. The largest fleet in galactic history gathered above Crystallos Prime, the Vorthak homeworld. 3,000 crystal ships formed perfect formations around the planet that had ruled the galaxy for millennia. Energy, shields that could stop asteroids protected the world's surface. Weapons platforms that could crack moons waited in orbit. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood on the bridge of the Defiance and studied the tactical displays. The human fleet had grown to 200 ships, supported by 500 vessels from liberated, alien worlds. Against 3,000 Vorthak warships, it looked like madness. "Admiral," Captain Tony Martinez said quietly, "we're outnumbered 15 to 1. Maybe we should wait for more reinforcements." Kate shook her head. "There won't be more reinforcements, Tony. This is everything we have. Every human ship, every allied vessel, every resistance fighter who can still hold a weapon. If we lose here, the war is over." Jake Morrison's voice crackled over the communication system from the New Horizon. "Admiral, all reconnaissance teams are in position. The plan is crazy, but it might just work." The plan was indeed crazy. Instead of attacking the massive Vorthak fleet directly, the humans were going to do what they did best: cheat. For months, Chief Engineer Lisa Parker had been studying captured Vorthak technology with Dr. Maria Santos back on Earth. They had discovered something amazing about the crystal beings. Their entire civilization was built on harmonic frequencies. Every weapon, every ship, every building on their homeworld operated on precise energy patterns. "It's like a giant musical instrument," Lisa had explained to Admiral Sullivan. "If we can play the wrong note loud enough, the whole thing falls apart." The device they built was called the Harmonic Disruptor. It was small enough to fit on a shuttle, but it needed to be placed at exactly the right spot: the energy core of Crystallos Prime itself. Getting there would require the most audacious military operation in human history. Captain Rachel Stone commanded the stealth fleet. 20 human ships equipped with the most advanced cloaking technology Earth could build. They had practiced this mission 100 times, but never against 3,000 enemy vessels surrounding a fortress planet. "Stealth fleet, this is Admiral Sullivan." Kate's voice was calm despite the impossible odds. "Execute Operation Thunder." The battle began with a diversion that would be remembered for 1,000 years. Admiral Sullivan's main fleet charged directly toward the Vorthak defensive line. Every human and alien ship opened fire at maximum range, creating a light show that could be seen from 3 star systems away. The Vorthak responded exactly as expected. Their 3,000 ships formed perfect battle lines and began systematic destruction of the attacking fleet. To any observer, it looked like the humans had finally made a fatal mistake. But while the Vorthak concentrated on the obvious threat, Rachel Stone's stealth ships slipped through their defensive line like ghosts. The frequency disruptors that Dr. Santos had developed didn't just hide the human vessels from sensors. They made the ships invisible to Vorthak technology completely. "Stealth 1 to all units," Rachel whispered into her communicator. "We're through the outer defenses, beginning planetary approach." On the surface of Crystallos Prime, Lieutenant Colonel Sam Wright led the most dangerous ground mission ever attempted. His team of 50 human Marines and 200 alien commandos had one job: fight their way to the planet's energy core and plant the harmonic disruptor. The crystal cities of the Vorthak homeworld were beautiful and terrible. Towers of pure energy reached toward the sky. Streets made of crystallized light ran between buildings that hummed with power. It was a world built by beings who controlled energy like humans controlled fire, but it was also a world that had never been invaded. The Vorthak had no ground defenses because no enemy had ever reached their homeworld. Their cities were designed for beauty, not war. Sam's commandos moved through the crystal streets like they were storming a medieval castle. Vorthak civilians fled in panic. The crystal beings had never seen actual soldiers before. For 3,000 years their military had fought wars in space, far from their beautiful homeworld. Colonel Wright to Admiral Sullivan. Sam spoke into his radio while his team fought through a plaza made of singing crystal. We're 2 kilometers from the target, meeting heavy resistance now. The resistance came in the form of Vorthak Palace, guards who had never fought anything more dangerous than ceremonial duties. They had energy weapons, but they didn't know how to use them against enemies who refused to stand still and fight fairly. Human Marines used cover and movement, advancing through the crystal city like they were fighting in an urban war zone on Earth. The Vorthak guards, trained for parade formations and ritual combat, couldn't adapt to guerrilla warfare. Meanwhile, in space, the main battle raged with desperate intensity. Admiral Sullivan's fleet was taking heavy losses, but they kept the Vorthak attention focused away from the stealth ships. Every human vessel that died bought more time for Rachel Stone's mission. Captain Jake Morrison found himself in the strangest position of his life. The New Horizon, the little exploration ship that had started this whole war, was now leading a squadron of Allied vessels against Vorthak battlecruisers. "Danny, target their command ship," Jake ordered. "Amy, broadcast our surrender signal." It was the oldest trick in the human playbook. The New Horizon approached a massive Vorthak vessel while broadcasting a fake surrender message. The crystal ship lowered its shields to accept the human captain's submission. Instead, Jake's ship fired every weapon they had into the Vorthak vessel's unprotected bridge. The crystal command ship went dark and began drifting helplessly through space. On the planet's surface, Sam Wright's team reached the energy core of Crystallos Prime. It was a chamber carved from a single crystal the size of a building, pulsing with the harmonic frequencies that powered the entire Vorthak civilization. "Lisa, this is Sam." He spoke into his communicator while his Marines held off waves of confused Vorthak defenders. "We're at the target. How long do we need to hold this position?" Lisa Parker's voice crackled back from the New Horizon. 60 seconds to plant the device. Another 60 seconds for it to sync with their harmonic frequency. Then you need to get out of there fast. Those were the longest 2 minutes in galactic history. Human and alien commandos fought desperately to hold the crystal chamber, while Lisa worked to install the harmonic disruptor. Outside, the sounds of battle echoed through the crystal city as more Vorthak forces rushed toward their position. "Device planted!" Lisa shouted. "Everyone out! Now!" The commandos ran through crystal corridors that began to vibrate with a sound like breaking glass. The harmonic disruptor was working, sending destructive frequencies through every crystal structure on the planet. In space, Supreme Overlord Kethvarax watched in horror as his perfect fleet began to fall apart. Ships that had dominated the galaxy for millennia went dead as their crystal matrices shattered. Weapons that could destroy planets flickered and died. The energy shields protecting Crystallos Prime collapsed. The orbital weapons platforms went silent. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Vorthak homeworld was defenseless. Admiral Sullivan's remaining ships closed in around the planet. But instead of bombarding the defenseless world, Kate opened a communication channel to the Vorthak leader. "Supreme Overlord Kethvarax, this is Admiral Kate Sullivan of the human fleet. You have 2 choices. Surrender now and end this war, or watch your civilization crumble around you." The crystal being's voice carried 3 millennia of absolute power, now broken by disbelief. How? How did primitive mammals defeat the greatest empire in galactic history? Jake Morrison answered from the bridge of the New Horizon. "Because you forgot something important. Wars aren't won by the biggest weapons or the strongest ships. They're won by beings who refuse to give up no matter how impossible things look." The surrender of the Vorthak Empire took 3 days to negotiate. Commander Zalthara represented the liberated species. Admiral Sullivan spoke for humanity. Supreme Overlord Kethvarax signed documents that ended 3,000 years of crystal tyranny. But the real victory wasn't the surrender. It was what happened next. Instead of taking over the Vorthak Empire, humanity helped rebuild it. Human engineers worked with crystal technicians to repair damaged worlds. Human doctors treated Vorthak civilians alongside the former slaves. Human teachers showed alien children that different species could live together in peace. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the New Horizon 1 year later, watching human and alien ships patrol together through space that had once known only war. The galaxy was free, not because humanity had conquered it, but because humanity had shown it how to be free. Amy Scott, now promoted to commander, joined him at the viewing port. "Captain, we just received a message from Earth. They're naming a new exploration ship after us." Jake smiled. "Good. The galaxy's a big place. There are probably other species out there who need to learn that no storm lasts forever, and that sometimes help comes from the most